I was staring at my laptop screen at 2 in the morning when the impossible happened. The email notification pinged, and my heart stopped. The sender's address, ryan.morrison.navy@gmail.com, my son's email. The email I hadn't been able to delete for 10 years. The subject line was blank. The message contained only 4 words. Dad, is this you? My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. Ryan was dead. I'd stood on the deck of the USS Gerald Ford 10 years ago and watched them fire a 21-gun salute over empty waters. I'd accepted the folded flag from the admiral. I'd scattered flowers where they told me his ship had gone down. But his email was right there, unread, waiting. I need to back up. I need to explain how we got here, because I still don't understand it myself. And I've lived through every moment of the last decade trying to make sense of what happened. 10 years ago, my son Ryan was a lieutenant in the United States Navy, 28 years old, sonar technician on the USS Howard, a destroyer operating in the Philippine Sea. I was so proud of him I could barely stand it. He was everything I'd hoped to be when I served. Smarter, braver, better. His mother died when he was 16, and I'd raised him alone after that. Just the 2 of us against the world. When he joined the Navy, I felt like I'd done something right for once in my life. March 15th, 2015. That's the date that split my life into before and after. The USS Howard was conducting routine operations about 200 miles east of Luzon when a catastrophic equipment failure caused a fire in the engine room. The official report said the fire spread faster than anyone anticipated. The crew had 17 minutes to evacuate before the ship started taking on water. 17 minutes sounds like a lot until you're trying to get 300 people off a sinking destroyer in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Ryan was in the sonar room when it happened, below decks. The last communication from him was a radio call saying he was helping 3 junior sailors find the evacuation route through the smoke. That was the last anyone heard from any of them. The Coast Guard searched for 2 weeks. They found debris. They found life vests. They found some personal effects. They found 12 bodies, but they never found Ryan. After 2 weeks in the Pacific, the Navy declared him lost at sea, presumed dead. They didn't have a body to give me, just his service medals, his wallet that somehow survived in a waterproof compartment, and that folded flag. The memorial service was on a Tuesday. I remember that because Tuesdays were always our phone call day when Ryan was deployed. Every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, he'd call if he could. For 3 years, I never missed a Tuesday call. After he died, Tuesdays became the hardest day of the week. I kept his apartment exactly as it was for almost a year. His laptop was still on his desk, logged into his email. I used to sit there sometimes, reading through old messages we'd sent each other. Stupid stuff, mostly. Links to articles about vintage cars. We both loved classic Mustangs. Photos of food he ate in port cities. Complaints about the quality of coffee on the ship. Eventually, I forced myself to pack everything up. But I couldn't delete the email account. I changed the password to something I'd remember, and I kept it active. I told myself it was because it had important memories. But really, I think I just couldn't stand the idea of that final connection disappearing. For 10 years, the only emails that came to ryan.morrison.navy@gmail.com were spam, pharmacy offers, fake lottery winnings, crypto scams. Until 2 a.m. on a Wednesday in January 2025. Dad, is this you? I stared at those 4 words for probably 5 minutes. My first thought was that it was some kind of cruel scam. Someone had hacked the account. Someone was trying to hurt me or steal from me or God knows what. My second thought was that I was losing my mind. That grief and insomnia and too many nights alone in this house had finally caught up with me, and I was seeing things that weren't real. My third thought, the one I barely let myself acknowledge, was, what if? What if somehow, impossibly, it was him? I typed back with shaking fingers, "Who is this?" The response came immediately, like whoever was on the other end had been waiting, watching for my reply. I don't know. That's the problem. I don't know who I am, but I found this email password in an old notebook. The name is Ryan Morrison. Is that me? Are you my father? I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. The room spun. I actually had to put my head between my knees to keep from passing out. This couldn't be real. This was insane. But I kept typing. Where are you? A place called Baylor. In the Philippines. I've been here for, I don't know how long, years. The people here call me Joseph. But that notebook says Ryan. I found it in my things yesterday. There's a phone number too, but I don't have a way to call. Only internet at the cafe. My mind was racing. The Philippines. The USS Howard went down near the Philippines. But Ryan had been dead for 10 years. The Navy searched. They declared him dead. Unless they were wrong. Unless somehow he survived. I looked at the clock. 2:15 a.m. I didn't care. I grabbed my phone and called the only person I could think of who might help me make sense of this. Commander Sarah Chen, who'd served with Ryan on the Howard and survived the sinking. She'd moved to San Diego after her discharge, and we'd stayed in touch over the years. She was the only person who understood what it was like to have been there that day. David? Her voice was groggy with sleep. What's wrong? I need you to tell me I'm not crazy, I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. I just got an email from Ryan's account. Silence on the other end. Then, what did it say? I told her everything. The email, the messages. Baylor, Philippines. The name, Joseph. David, she said carefully. Ryan's email account. Anyone could have hacked it. This could be someone who knows about the Howard incident, trying to... I know how it sounds, I interrupted. But what if it's real? What if he's alive? Sarah, what if he survived and we left him there? The search was thorough, she said, but I could hear uncertainty creeping into her voice. But, I mean, the currents in that area are strange, and there are hundreds of fishing villages along that coast. If someone was injured, had amnesia. Is it possible? I asked. Tell me straight. Is it possible he could have survived? A long pause. It's possible, she finally said. Not likely, but possible. The 3 sailors who were with him, we never found them either. We always assumed they went down with the ship, but the section they were in, there was an exterior hatch. If they got it open, I was already opening a new browser tab, searching for flights to Manila. What are you doing? Sarah asked. What do you think I'm doing? I'm going to the Philippines. David, wait. Think about this. This could be a scam. You could fly halfway around the world for nothing, or I could find my son. I heard her sigh. Then, let me make some calls. I still have contacts at Naval Intelligence. If someone's using Ryan's identity fraudulently, they'll be able to trace it. But if this is real, if there's any chance this is real, will you come with me? I asked. If it's him, I'll need someone who knew him, someone who can verify. Of course, she said without hesitation. But let me do some homework first. Give me 24 hours. I went back to the email. I'm coming to find you, I typed. Can you tell me anything else? Anything you remember? The response took longer this time. When it came, it made my chest tight. I remember water and fire, and being so cold I thought I would die. I remember a boat, an old man pulling me up. I remember waking up and not knowing anything. Not my name, not where I was from, nothing. Just pain and confusion. The fisherman who saved me, Vicente, he's dead now. Died 3 years ago. But his family, they took care of me. Called me Joseph because I couldn't tell them my real name. I've been working on their boat, living in their village. Yesterday I was going through some old things Vicente saved from when he found me. And there was this waterproof notebook. It had this email address and password written inside. And a note that said, if anything happens to me, email Dad. I had to try. I read the message 3 times. Tears streaming down my face. Sarah called me back 18 hours later. I found something, she said. Or rather, I found nothing, which is interesting. What do you mean? I had my contact at NI run a trace on the email IP address. It's coming from an internet cafe in Baylor, exactly like he said. No VPN, no spoofing, just a straight connection from a local cafe. I also had them check for any financial fraud connected to Ryan's identity in the past 10 years. Nothing. No one's tried to access his bank accounts, apply for credit, anything. If this is a scam, It's the weirdest one I've ever seen. So, it could be real. I'm not saying that, she cautioned. I'm saying it's not an obvious scam. But David, even if someone is genuinely in Baylor, genuinely has that notebook, that doesn't mean it's Ryan. It could be someone who found his things, or bought them from someone, or... I know, I said. But I have to find out. Will you still come? I already booked my ticket, she said. We leave tomorrow night. The flight from San Diego to Manila took 14 hours. I didn't sleep. Couldn't sleep. I just kept refreshing my email, reading and rereading the messages. I'd asked for more details. Anything he could remember. I remember being good with sounds, he'd written. Like, I can hear things other people can't. Frequencies. Tones. Vicente used to say I could hear fish underwater. I never understood why I had that skill. Does that mean anything to you? It meant everything. Ryan was a sonar technician. His entire job was listening to sounds underwater, detecting submarines and vessels by their acoustic signatures. He used to joke that he could identify a ship by its engine noise the way other people identified songs. I remember being afraid of Tuesdays, another message said. Isn't that strange? Every Tuesday I feel sad, and I don't know why. Our phone call day, the day he died, the day I'd grieved for 10 years. From Manila, we took a smaller plane to a regional airport, then hired a driver to take us to Baylor. It was a coastal town, beautiful, in a way I couldn't appreciate. All I could think about was what we were about to find. Sarah had insisted we have a plan. We'd located the internet cafe where the emails originated. We'd found contact information for several fishing families in the area, named Vicente. We had a photo of Ryan from right before the Howard sank, young, smiling, in his Navy uniform. Remember, Sarah said as we drove into town, 10 years is a long time. If it is him, he'll look different. And if he has amnesia, he might not remember us at all. I know, I said. But I didn't know. I had no idea what I was walking into. The internet cafe was small, barely more than a room with 4 ancient computers and a teenage girl working the counter. Sarah showed her the photo of Ryan. The girl's face lit up. Joseph, she said in accented English. You know Joseph? My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might have a heart attack right there. Where can we find him? Sarah asked, her voice steady even though I could see her hands trembling. He works on the fishing boat. Every day. They come back around 5 o'clock. You can wait at the dock. It was 3 p.m. 2 hours. We waited. I drank 3 cups of terrible coffee and couldn't taste any of them. Sarah tried to make conversation, prepare me, but I couldn't focus on her words. All I could think was, 2 hours. In 2 hours, I would know. At 4:45, boats started coming in. Small fishing vessels, weathered and worn. Families gathered at the dock to help unload the catch, calling to each other in Tagalog. Then I saw him. He was on the 3rd boat, hauling in nets with the easy strength of someone who'd done this work for years. He was tan, much darker than Ryan had been. His hair was longer, tied back. He had a beard. He was thinner, more wiry muscle than the athletic build Ryan had maintained in the Navy. But his eyes. Dear God, his eyes were exactly the same. That's him, I whispered. Sarah gripped my arm. Are you sure? That's my son. We walked toward the dock. Joseph, Ryan, whoever he was laughing at something one of the other fishermen said. He moved differently than Ryan had, more relaxed, less military precision. But the way he tilted his head when he listened, the way his hands moved when he talked, that was Ryan. He saw us approaching. Foreigners were probably unusual enough in this village to draw attention. He said something to his companion and jumped down from the boat, walking toward us. He stopped about 10 feet away, studying our faces. His expression was uncertain, almost frightened. Are you? He started, then stopped. Tried again. Did you come because of the emails? I couldn't speak. My throat had closed up completely. Sarah stepped forward. I'm Sarah Chen, she said. I served with Ryan Morrison. This is David Morrison, Ryan's father. He stared at me, really looked at me, like he was searching for something familiar. I watched his face, saw confusion, frustration, and something that might have been hope. "I don't remember you," he said finally, and the pain in his voice nearly broke me. "I'm sorry. I want to. I've been trying. But I don't remember." "It's okay," I managed to say. Though it wasn't. Nothing about this was okay. Can we talk?" He nodded and led us to a small cafe near the dock. We sat at a table outside, and he told us his story. Vicente Rodriguez had found him floating on debris about 300 miles north of where the Howard went down. This was 2.5 weeks after the sinking, well after the official search had ended. Joseph. I still couldn't think of him as Ryan. Had been barely alive. Hypothermic, dehydrated, injured. He had a severe head wound that Vicente thought might kill him. But Vicente didn't have a radio on his small fishing boat, and by the time he got back to shore, he'd decided this young man needed care more than he needed authorities. Vicente's sister was a retired nurse. She treated the head wound, the infection, the dehydration. It took weeks before he was conscious for more than a few minutes at a time. And when he finally woke up properly, he remembered nothing. Not his name, not where he was from, not what had happened to him. He spoke English, which told them he was probably American or European. But that was all they knew. Vicente reported finding him to the local police, but there were no missing persons reports that matched. The police figured he was probably a tourist who'd been in a boating accident, and when no one came looking for him after a few months, they lost interest. So Joseph stayed. Vicente's family took him in, gave him work, gave him a life. He learned to fish, learned some Tagalog, learned to live with the blank spaces in his mind where his past should have been. "I had dreams sometimes," he said. "Nightmares, really. About being underwater, about fire, about not being able to save people who were counting on me. I'd wake up crying and not know why." Sarah reached across the table and took his hand. "You tried to save 3 young sailors," she said gently. "They were trapped below decks when the Howard was going down. You radioed that you were going to help them evacuate. You were a hero, Ryan. You were always a hero." He flinched at the name. "Ryan," he repeated. "That's supposed to be me, but I don't feel like a Ryan. I've been Joseph for so long." "You can be whoever you want to be," I said. "But I need to know. I need to be sure. Would you be willing to take a DNA test?" He nodded immediately. "Yes, I want to know too. I want to know who I was." Sarah had anticipated this. She'd brought a DNA kit with her, the kind you could mail to a lab. We did the swab right there at the cafe, and she overnighted it to a lab in Manila that could expedite the results. 3 days. We had to wait 3 days for confirmation. I spent those 3 days in Baylor, getting to know this man who might be my son. He showed me the village, the boat, the small house where Vicente's family had given him a room. He introduced me to the people who'd become his family over the past decade. And slowly, carefully, I told him about Ryan Morrison, about the kid who built model ships in our garage, about the teenager who wanted to join the Navy like his old man, about the young man who called every Tuesday without fail, about the son who told terrible jokes and loved old cars and could name every type of naval vessel just by looking at its silhouette. Some of it seemed to spark something in him. When I mentioned the Mustangs, he got a strange look on his face. "I drew a car once," he said. "A few years ago. I don't know why. I just felt like I needed to draw this specific car. Do you want to see?" He showed me a sketch in one of his notebooks. It was a 1967 Mustang Fastback. The exact model Ryan and I had always talked about restoring together someday. On the 3rd day, Sarah's phone rang. The lab in Manila. We were all sitting together at the cafe. Me, Sarah, and Joseph. He'd asked to be there when we got the results. Sarah listened for a moment, thanked the person on the phone, and hung up. Her eyes were shining with tears. "It's a match," she said. "David, it's him. It's Ryan." I looked at my son, and he was my son. That was confirmed now, scientifically proven, and I didn't know what to say. How do you greet someone you've mourned for 10 years? How do you reclaim a relationship that's been erased from someone's memory? Ryan, I forced myself to use his real name, was staring at his hands. "I'm Ryan Morrison," he said quietly. like he was testing the words. I was a lieutenant in the United States Navy. I served on the USS Howard. I had a father who called me every Tuesday. He looked up at me, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry I don't remember. I'm so sorry. Don't apologize, I said, reaching across the table to grip his hand. You survived. Against impossible odds, you survived. That's all that matters. What happens now? He asked. Am I supposed to go back? To America? To the Navy? Sarah shook her head. The Navy declared you dead. Legally, you'll need to go through a process to be reinstated to living status. But that's just paperwork. You don't owe the military anything. Your service ended the day the Howard sank. And as for coming home, I said, that's entirely up to you. This is your home now, if you want it to be. These people saved your life. I'm not going to ask you to leave them. But even as I said it, I hoped. God, how I hoped. Ryan was quiet for a long time. Then he said, Can I have some time to think about it? To figure out who I am now that I know who I was? Of course, I said. Take all the time you need. I stayed in Baylor for 2 more weeks. Every day, Ryan and I would have breakfast together, and I'd tell him stories about his life before. I showed him photos on my phone, videos, old emails. Some of it seemed to resonate with him. Other times, he'd just look confused and sad. But slowly, something was building between us. Not the relationship we'd had before. That was gone, probably forever. But something new. He started calling me David instead of Mr. Morrison. He asked questions about his mother, about his childhood, about the man he'd been. On my last day before I had to fly back to San Diego, Ryan took me out on the fishing boat, just the 2 of us, and the open ocean. I remember this, he said suddenly as we sat there on the gently rocking boat. Not this specifically, but being on the water, feeling at peace here. I remember loving this. You always did, I said, even as a kid. We'd go to the beach and you'd stay in the water until your lips turned blue and I had to drag you out. He smiled. It was the first time I'd seen him smile since we'd met, really smile, and it looked just like Ryan's smile. Just like my son. I don't know if I'll ever remember everything, he said. The doctors Sarah connected me with, they say the head trauma was severe. Some memories might come back, but a lot of them probably won't. That's okay, I said. Is it? He asked. How can it be okay? I lost 10 years. You lost 10 years. The people I served with, they thought I was dead. I should have tried harder to remember. I should have... Stop, I said firmly. You survived a catastrophic ship sinking. You floated in the Pacific Ocean for weeks. You had severe head trauma. The fact that you're alive at all is a miracle. The fact that you built a life here, that you found people who cared for you, that you kept going even when you didn't know who you were, that's incredible. You have nothing to apologize for. He was quiet for a moment. Then, will you come back? To visit? Are you kidding? I said. Try keeping me away. I just found out my son is alive. I'm not losing him again. Good, he said. Because I think, I'd like to get to know my father. The real me might not remember you, but this me, Joseph, Ryan, whoever I am now, I'd like to know you. We sat on that boat until sunset, not saying much, just being together. And for the first time in 10 years, I felt something I'd forgotten was possible. I felt hope. Ryan did eventually come back to the States, about 6 months later, not permanently. He splits his time now between Baylor and San Diego. He says both places are home. The Navy gave him full honors for his service and formally discharged him with a medical retirement. The 3 sailors he'd been trying to save were never found, and he carries that with him, though he doesn't remember it. Some memories have come back, small things mostly. He remembered the model ships we built. He remembered his mother's laugh. He remembered that he hated Brussels sprouts and loved terrible action movies. But a lot stayed gone. He doesn't remember the day the Howard sank. He doesn't remember our Tuesday phone calls. He doesn't remember most of his naval service. What he does remember, what he's building now, is this. He has a father who flew halfway around the world on the slim possibility that an email was real. He has a community in the Philippines who saved his life and asked for nothing in return. He has friends from his old Navy days who welcomed him back like he'd never been gone. He has a second chance that most people don't get. We talk every Sunday now. Not Tuesday. That day still carries too much weight for both of us. But Sunday works. We talk about his week fishing, about my week at the Veterans Center where I volunteer now. We talk about the Mustang we're restoring together in my garage when he's in town. We talk about the future instead of the past we lost. Sometimes people ask me what it's like, having a son who doesn't remember being your son. The truth is, it's hard. It breaks my heart sometimes, knowing that all those memories I cherish, teaching him to ride a bike, his high school graduation, the day he left for basic training, those are mine alone now. He'll never remember them. But here's what I've learned. Memory isn't the same as love. Ryan doesn't remember loving me, but he chooses to love me anyway. Every Sunday call, every visit, every moment we spend building something new together, that's not based on memory. That's based on choice. And somehow, that means even more. The day I got that email, I thought I was receiving a message from a ghost. What I actually received was a second chance, a reminder that hope is never wasted, that the people we love have a way of finding their way back to us, even when it seems impossible. I buried my son 10 years ago, or at least I thought I did. Last January, he sent me an email that said, "Dad, is this you?" And I found out that sometimes miracles do happen. Sometimes the people we've lost aren't as lost as we thought. Sometimes love is strong enough to bridge even the widest gaps. Sometimes you get to start over. And sometimes that's even better than going back.